Boker Tov and Shabbat Shalom. I'm Juan Carlos and welcome to the Light to the Nations channel. You know, this is a very special Shabbat because it's the first Shabbat of the year. So I'm very happy to share this time with you, and I think the topic we will cover today, it's very interesting. But before moving forward to the topic, I want to share with you my screen and just to sync up with you where we are in the calendar and why I'm saying that this is the first day Shabbat of the year. So this is the first month in the calendar that I created, and maybe some of you already have it. And we are in the first week, and we are in the day number 4 of the week, the Yom Shabbat. So here we are. I'm planning to start, as I explained in the previous video, in the calendar guidelines, with the new cycle in Bereshit. So if you want to follow this cycle, please, you are more than welcome. But I want to make a comment here. You know, I have seen many different cycles from people. At least I have seen 3 cycles that are totally different, including this one that you can see in the calendar. And people somehow are getting confused on what cycle to use. You know, the bottom line and the most important point here is not what cycle you are going to use. The most important thing is we are reading the scriptures. So there is not commandment in the whole scripture that is telling us a specific cycle, reading cycle that we need to follow. You know, all the parashot is the Hebrew word for cycles or portions, is to give us a kind of guideline or a kind of plan, reading plan for the entire year. But there is no commandment at all that is telling us that we need to follow a specific plan and a specific cycle and a specific order. The most important thing here is that we are reading the scriptures almost every day, in every Shabbat, because in the scriptures is where we are finding our food in order to grow and move forward in the way of YaHuWaH. So don't get confused. If you want to use this cycle, again, you are welcome. If you want to use another cycle, it's good as well. The important point here is that we are reading the scriptures. So we are in the day number 4, first Shabbat of the year. So I'm very excited for that. I have been telling you, I think this is going to be an interesting year, and we need to prepare ourselves because we are living the last days. So coming back to the point, the purpose of this video is to share with you some insights of the calendar. You know, I have been saying in previous videos that I am still working on some aspects of the calendar, and also for those of you that have sent me an email requesting a copy of the calendar, I also have sent additional document with the foundation's topics, specifically some facts on the moon-based calendar. So this video, my purpose is to share with you this presentation, to go in more details on each one of the points. I hope that I'm gonna clarify some of them for you. Maybe you have questions about the moon-based calendars that maybe we are gonna cover here. Again, if some points is not clear, you are more than welcome to send me an email. I will be happy and to send you my insight and my comments on those points. Again, the idea here is not to create any debate, it's not to create confusion. The idea is to search for the truth. Mashiach said that the Ruach HaKodesh will lead us in all righteousness, in all tzedakah, and in all truth. So we have a responsibility to search for the truth. The most important thing as well is that we need to come back here to the Devar of YaHuWaH. Why? Because this is the truth. Mashiach said that when he was praying for his disciple, he said to Elohim, "Your word is the truth." So we need to come back here and look for the truth and understand what YaHuWaH wants to teach us and how to walk in his ways. If any of you have not sent me an email yet asking for the calendar, please send to me an email. My email address, you have it over there, is lightoeverynation@gmail.com. I will send you a copy of the calendar, and also I will send you a copy of the presentation we will review today. So let's go to the point. I will share with you my screen and we will start. So here we are. So this presentation is still work in progress. I'm adding almost on a daily basis more information. So what I want to cover today is the part number 1, the first part, the foundations. And as I said, the idea here is to review some facts on calendars. So let's move on. So we will check first of all the facts on the Hillel calendar and all moon-based calendar. Most probably some of you that are already walking in this way, in this journey, in the Torah journey for a while, you are very familiar with some of the items that we are going to cover here in this slide. So please follow me, be with me, because we will review and we will put under test each one of the points here, and we will put them under the test of the scriptures. And if you are new to this way, believe me, in one moment or the other, you will get in contact with this kind of calendars, the moon-based calendar, because it's the most known calendar in the Jewish community, in the Torah believers community, in the Messianic communities, and so on. So it is important to have this as a foundation, just to understand how those calendars work, and what the scripture is telling us about each one of the points that we will review today. So let's start. The first point here is that these calendars are including a 13th month every 3 years. This is known as the Metonic cycle. You can look at this in internet, Metonic cycle, and you will find a lot of information. Basically, the Metonic cycle is a kind of discovery that some people made in the past, that since the cycle of the moon and the cycle of the sun has totally different durations, they discovered that if we are adding to the cycle of the moon a 13 month every 3 years, at the end of 19 years, it will sum up all the days based on the moon cycles adding this 13 month, and we compare with the days of the sun cycles in these 19 years, we are getting almost to the same amount of days. I think it's around 65,000 days, something like that. You can look for this information. So basically, that's why they decided, in order to keep in sync the moon and the sun, is that it's needed to add a 13th, an entire month, a 13th month every 3 years. And all the moon-based calendars are doing this. Okay, so again, every 3 years they're adding a 13th month. That's the important point here. The second fact in this kind of calendars is that the duration of the months is different month by month. Why is that? Because this calendar again are based on the phases of the moon, and there's a month where the phase of the moon lasts 29 days and other months that last 30 days. So this is somehow is very confusing. I will give you more comments in a moment. But it's important that we understand that this kind of calendars doesn't have a fixed duration. It can vary between 29 and 30 days per month. The next point, and this is specifically related to the Hillel calendar. Hillel calendar is the calendar that the Jewish people is using nowadays, and this calendar was created long time ago. I think it was after the diaspora after the destruction of the Second Temple. I don't remember by heart now, but you can look this information on the internet and you will know the specific day when this calendar was created. So this calendar is a mathematically calculated calendar. They are not using the moon, they are not using other aspect of the pure moon-based calendar and moon sighting calendar, because it's mathematically calculated. And why is that? And you can see it there in the point. Basically, the sages, the Jewish elders, when they were facing so many diasporas, including the Babylonian captivity and all the diasporas after the destruction of the Second Temple, they were facing a tremendous challenge, because their belief was that the month and the year has to be announced depending on the sighting of the new moon in Jerusalem, and also in the status of the barley in the land of Israel to decide when the year was beginning. So since and because of the diaspora, they were out of the land, they didn't have the chance to see the moon, check the moon in Jerusalem. And the same situation was happening with barley. They didn't have the possibility to check what was the status of barley. So they decided to create this mathematically calculated calendar in order to keep the moedim as much as close to the real dates. And I have to say they are pretty close to the dates if we follow the moon as the baseline for our calendars. But it's important to understand, Jewish people today are using this mathematically calculated calendar. They are not checking the moon, they are not checking the barley. I'm talking specifically about the rabbinical Judaism, just to make it clear. So it's important to have this point clear. The next one is that, and this is for sure not related to the Hillel calendar, because I already explained that this Hillel is a mathematically calculated. But in most of the Messianic community, the Torah believers and believers in YaHuWaH Mashiach, they are using the moon-based calendar that is based on the sighting of the new moon, the crescent moon. You know, the crescent moon is the first sliver of the moon. It's the first light that is seen on the moon. You know, after the sun is set, we have around 20 to 30 minutes to see the first sliver of the moon. I was one of them until last year, at the end of last year. Actually, there are some people in internet that they are updating reports from Israel about the sighting of the moon and the status of the barley. I was checking every month those reports in order to decide when the month or the Rosh Chodesh was, because that's the way they call it. And also by myself here in Chile, in Santiago, I was checking every month if I was able to see the moon. Even with my shofar, I was going to some places, and when I was seeing the moon, I was using my shofar, I was sounding my shofar. So again, these calendars are based in the crescent moon, in the new moon, in order to determine the beginning of the month. The beginning of the month is called Rosh Chodesh in these calendars, meaning the head of the month. That should be the literal interpretation. And also somehow these calendars are based in a Jewish tradition that says that the Sanhedrin, when the Sanhedrin was fully operational in the Second Temple period, the Sanhedrin was the responsible to announce the beginning of every month and also the beginning of the year. And they were doing it based on the testimony of three witnesses that were able to see the moon. And somehow they are basing all of this in the commandment, the mitzvah we have in the Torah, that in the mouth of two or three witnesses we need to establish any word, we need to establish any truth, any matter. So that's why they were waiting for at least 2 or 3 witnesses that they were able to see the moon, the new moon, the crescent moon, and after that they were announcing the beginning of the month. Next point, and actually this is very critical to understand, all of those calendars, these calendars has a full dependency on the weather conditions. It happened several times last year. Even I think it did in Yom Teruah last year or the previous year. It was very difficult because in the land of Israel the new moon wasn't seen in the day that everybody was expecting it. So what happened on those kind of situations? If the moon is not seen on the expected day, we need to wait until the next day to see if we have the witnesses for the moon. If in the second day nobody was able to see the moon because of poor weather conditions, they were waiting for the third day until they are able to see the moon. So basically, by doing this, all the moedims, all the beginning of the months, even the beginning of the year is getting delayed. And all the moedims are getting delayed, and it's basically a moving target. So again, this is critical to understand, and I'm gonna make some comments about this point later on. The next point, and I think I already mentioned this, it was the Sanhedrin responsibility to announce the beginning of the year. They were responsible to announce the beginning of the month, and also they had the authority during the second temple period to announce the beginning of the new year. And they were doing that based on the status of the barley in the land of Israel, and also somehow in the sighting of the new moon. So there is a connection somehow in order to announce the beginning of the year, depending on the status of barley and the sighting of the moon. Because of this, you will find that there are some moments that even today, people are delaying in an entire month the beginning of the year because they said that the barley is not ready for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Hag HaMatzot, because of the first of the harvest, the Rashid Katsir. And that's why they decide to move everything for the next new moon, crescent moon. There are other people that they said no, the barley is okay, so they decide to advance the year in 1 month. I was one of them last year. Last year I started the year in March because I was checking some reports, and I felt some peace in my heart that that was the right moment to do it. But most of the people, the majority of the Torah believers and the Messianic communities were starting the year in April, because they said that the barley were not ready. So again, the starting of the year was depending on the barley status, the new moon, and men decisions. And in the in the second temple period, those decisions were under the Sanhedrin. If you don't know what the Sanhedrin was basically a committee of people, elders in the land of Israel. Some of them maybe were Kohanim, some others were well instructed in the Torah, Pharisees, Sadducees, and so on. And they were participating in this kind of committee, and they were making those decisions. Next and last point, and we are not gonna cover this one in much details today, but it's important to mention. All of these calendars are basing his understanding of the Hebrew word Chodesh, the strong number H2320, and that this word means new moon. That's the understanding they have of this word. You know, if you take a look in this word and do a short study on this, you will find out that the origin of this and the root of this word is the word Hadash. And Hadash literally means new or renew. Actually, that's why we have the expression Brit Hadashah. It's the new covenant, the renewed covenant. So, you know, the word moon has a totally different Hebrew word. Moon in Hebrew is YaReach. So Chodesh and YaReach are totally different, and there's no connection at all between them, only the connection that main traditions want to put. So those are the points. I think those are the main points on the moon-based calendars. So again, we will put under test, under the scripture test, each one of those points. But I think more than that, as I said, we are searching for the truth. And more than put this under test, our focus should be to see what the scriptures want to teach us, what the Ruach HaKodesh want to teach us in our heart, in each one of the verses that we will review in the next slides. So let's move on. So what we will see now is basically we will see three witnesses on the scriptures that the three of them are revealing to us that the scriptures consider a year of only 12 months. Saying in another way, the year according to the scriptures and according to these witnesses has only 12 months, no space at all for a 13th month, as the moon-based calendar is telling us. So we will review the three of them, and let's start for the first. The first one, we have it in Jason. This is the book of Revelation, Sefer Jason, chapter 22, verse 2. Again, let's put our focus in what the scriptures, the Devar of YaHuWaH is telling us, and also using that point, let's put under test the moon-based calendar as well. So Jason chapter 22 verse 2 says the following: In the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So the whole context here in this passage is basically we are talking about the new Jerusalem. Everything has passed. Even we are talking after the new Shemaim, the new heaven, and the new Eretz, the new earth. We have this amazing passage here that YaHuWaH and YaHuShua, because this is the revelation of YaHuShua, is given to us that we will have access to the tree of life. So the important point here is that how this is going to work. It says that the tree of life will be yielding its fruits every month. This is the information we have in this verse. Each tree yielding its fruit every month. So the tree will give the fruit again every month. Keep that in mind. But it's also telling us that it's bearing 12 fruits. So if we have 12 fruits per tree, and the tree is yielding its fruits every month, how come we are going to do it with a 13th month if we are basing our calendar in the moon? There is no option. It's impossible. That doesn't mean that we will have an entire 13th month, an entire month without fruit. No, it's quite clear that the scripture here is that we will have only 12 months, meaning that we will have a fruit per month. So the scriptures, and this is the first witness, is not giving any space to the moon-based calendar, it's not giving any space to a 13 month. It's telling us that the year is having only 12 months. So let's take a look in the second witness. This one is in Melachim Aleph. Melachim Aleph, this is 1 King chapter 4, verse 7 to 19. Melachim Aleph, 1 King chapter 4, 7 to 19. And it says the following. And Shlomo, this is King Solomon, and Shlomo had 12 governors, keep that in mind, 12 again, 12 governors, over all Israel, who provided food for the sovereign and his household. Each one made provision, and put attention here, for 1 Chodesh of the year. So basically, and we will take a look in this verse because this is the key verse on this witness, is that we are seeing that Shlomo had 12 governors over all Israel, and the responsibility, the job of these people were to provide food for the Melech, the king, and his house. So that was a huge, a tremendous responsibility. They were in charge because they have responsibility all over the land. And if you keep reading the passage until the verse 19, you will see what are the lands that they were responsible of. So they were responsible to send food and provide food to the king and to his household. And they have only 12 governors. And how are they supposed to do that? It says in the same verse 7, each one made provision for 1 Chodesh of the year. So the responsibility of each one and how they were working in shifts, that they were taking the responsibility to make provision and provide food for an entire month, an entire Chodesh of the Shana. So what does it mean? If we have 12 governors, they were able to provide food only during 12 months on the year. So if we're following a moon-based calendar, as we saw in the facts, every 3 years we will need to add a 13th month. So what will happen with the king, with the Melech and his family? Won't they have food for an entire month, a 13th month? No way, it's impossible. So again, this is a tremendous support and tremendous witness, second witness, that the scriptures is revealing us that the year is having only 12 months. Again, no space for a 13th month, no space at all for a moon-based calendar. So let's take a look on the third witness, and this one is in Divrei Hayamim Aleph. This is 1 Chronicles, Divrei Hayamim Aleph, 1 Chronicles, chapter 27, verse 1 to 15. You know, it's amazing how YaHuWaH works with us. That's why it's so important not to use our own interpretation. We need to let the scripture to interpret itself. We need to look for the witnesses in the scriptures. We not to put our own opinions on this. We need to just look for the truth in the truth. And the Devar of YaHuWaH, the whole scriptures, is the truth. So, Divrei Hayamim Aleph, 1 Chronicles 27, verse 1 to 15. It says the following, and the children of Israel, according to their number, the heads of fathers' houses, and the commanders of thousands and hundreds and their officers, served the sovereign in all matters of the divisions which came in and went out, Chodesh by Chodesh, throughout all the Chodeshim of the year, each division having 24,000. So let's take a look in this verse because again, this is giving us the full context and actually is giving us the key in order to understand this witness. So basically, in the same way that the Shlomo had 12 governors to provide food for him and his house, here we see, and I think this was David Hamelech, King David, that has commanders of thousands, a commander and his division, and we see in this verse at the end, the division was 24,000 men. So the commander and his division was serving the Melech, the sovereign, in all matters, it says, in all matters of the division, which came in and went out. So again, we will see that there was 12 divisions, and we will see it in the next verses, and each one was having 24,000 plus the commander. So we see in this verse that a commander and his division was serving the sovereign for a specific period of time. They were saying Chodesh by Chodesh, month by month, throughout all the Chodeshim of the year, throughout all the months of the year. So they were serving the sovereign every month. Okay? This is basically the information we have over here. So if we keep reading, starting in the verse number 2, we will see the different divisions, and we will see that we have only 12 divisions. We will see even the name of the commandment. So let's take a look. Let's start in the verse number 2. It says, over the first division for the first Chodesh. So we have the first Chodesh was YaHuWaH, I'm sorry. So we have covered the first Chodesh. The verse number 4 is said, and over the division of the second Chodesh was Dodai. So we have the second Chodesh with the commander in charge. Number 5 is said, and the third commander of the army of the third Chodesh was Benayahu. So we have the third commander for the third Chodesh. In the verse number 7, we have the fourth for the fourth Chodesh was Asahel. So we have fourth commander for the fourth month. Number 8, the fifth for the fifth Chodesh was Shamhuth. So we have the fifth commander for the fifth Chodesh. Number 9 says the sixth for the sixth Chodesh was Ira. So we have the sixth commander for the sixth Chodesh. Number 10, the seventh for the seventh Chodesh was Cheletz. So again, we have the commander for the seventh Chodesh, the commander and his division. Number 11, we have the eighth for the eighth Chodesh was Sibechai. So we have the eighth commander and his division to serve the sovereign on the eighth Chodesh. Number 12 is said, the ninth for the ninth Chodesh was Abiezer. So again, the same pattern, commander with his division to serve in the ninth Chodesh. And the 10th commander in the verse 13 for the 10th Chodesh was Maharai. So we have the 10th commander for the 10th Chodesh. Number 14, the 11th for the 11th Chodesh was Benaiah. The number 15, and this is the last one, the 12th for the 12th Chodesh was Heldai. So if we read the verse 16, it's starting with a totally different statement for different roles in the kingdom, the Malchut of Israel. So we see very clearly, if you read the next verses, that the commanders and his division were listed only until verse 15. And the last one to be listed was the 12th. So we have 12 divisions with 12 commanders with his division, every one of them serving per month, per Chodesh, and they were distributing the work between themselves per month in order to cover all the months, all the Chodeshims of the Shana of the year. So again, we have no space for the 13th month, because what happens if we follow the moon? Every 3 years we will need to add the 13th month, right? So we don't have any commander to serve during that 13th month. Do we think that if in on King David's times, they were following the moon-based calendar and they were using the moon and adding this 13th month. They shouldn't mention here this and put a 13th one, or at least mention that no matter that we are adding a 13th month, we are restarting the cycle. So the first one serving in the first Chodesh, it will serve in the 13th month. It's nothing about that in the scripture. So again, we can tend to think on that. We can try to put our own opinion, our own interpretation on this in order to fit the 13th month on the scripture. But again, we are doing it from ourselves. So, and the scripture said, YaHuWaH said, "Your thoughts are not my thoughts, and your ways are not my ways." So we need to understand what are his thoughts and what are his ways. And here the scripture is telling us that his ways, and with 3 witnesses, that we have a year of only 12 months, no space at all for the 13th month, no space at all for a moon-based calendar. So let's move on. The next topic, we will review that the scriptures is revealing us that every month, every Chodesh, is having exactly 30 days. We saw in the facts in the first slide that the moon-based calendar, the duration of the month is varying basically between 29 and 30 days. We will see in the scriptures, and this is the first witness, that the scriptures doesn't give any space for this variation. It's telling us that we have exactly 30 days in a month. And this is critical because this is also one specific point to understand that the true calendar of YaHuWaH, it needs to be a fixed duration per month, of a duration of 30 days, and also a duration of the year of 12 months. That's the true calendar of YaHuWaH. So let's take a look on this witness. And this is in Genesis chapter 7, verse 11 to chapter 8, verse 4. And this is the account of the flood and the story of Noah and his family. Okay? So Bereshit, Genesis chapter 7, verse 11 till chapter 8, verse 4. And it says the following. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second Chodesh, the 17th day of the Chodesh, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the Shamayim, the heavens, were opened, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that same day, Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them went into the ark. So let's stop here for a moment. So this is wonderful because Torah is revealing us and giving us specific dates in order to do a calculation, in order to understand the whole account. And again, also, if we are following the fixed calendar of YaHuWaH, it's amazing because we can understand when this really happened on the looking into the clock of the Shamayim in the heaven. So the first point that I want to point it out here is that we have a specific date, and this is important in order to do a calculation. So everything started, the flood started on the 17th Yom, the 17th day of the second Chodesh, the second month. So it's saying very clearly here, on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the heavens, the Shamayim, were opened. So this is basically, it's interesting, and this is a totally different topic. It's how the flood happened. This wasn't only raining, as we know the rain today. It's saying very clear that there are windows on the Shamayim, and those windows were opened, and the water that is above the Shamayim started to come down to the earth. But not only that, the great deep, the earth was created in the deep, in the waters. So the great deep were broken up, so water started to flow from beneath as well. So the flood was caused because of water that was coming from below, from beneath, and also waters that were coming from above, above the rejilla, the spans. So what another important point here is that, before going there, is that the verse 13 is said that on that same day, Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the entire family, went into the ark. So in this same day, the 17th day of the second Chodesh, Noah and his family went into the ark and the flood started. So from this day on, they were into the ark. Keep that in mind. So let's continue. Verse 14 said, "They and every life form after its kind, and every beast after its kind, and every creeping creature that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2, of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And those going in, male and female of all flesh, went in as Elohim had commanded him, and YaHuWaH shut him in. And the flood was on the earth 40 days, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. And the waters were mighty and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters were exceedingly mighty on the earth, and all the high mountains under all the Shamayim were covered." Amazing. All the high mountains were covered with water. Verse 21 says, "And all flesh died, the creeping creatures on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts, and every swarming creature that swarms on the earth, and all mankind, all in whose nostrils has the breath of the spirit of life, the Ruach of life. All that was on the dried land died. So he wiped off all that stand, which were on the face of the ground, both man and beast, creeping creature and bird of the heavens. And they were wiped off from the earth, and only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark." And put attention here in the 24th. "And the waters were mighty on the earth 150 days." So basically we have another key here. So it's another clue. The water were mighty on the earth for 150 yomim, 150 days. So everything started on the 17th Chodesh. So the waters were mighty on the earth 150 days. So we need to count how many days and where we end up if we add these 150 days starting on the 17th of the second Chodesh. So let's continue, because in the chapter 8 we have more witness. So it says in the chapter 8:1, "And Elohim remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark. And Elohim made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided." Sorry for my bad English. The verse 2, it says, "And the fountains of the deep and the windows of the Shamayim were stopped." So everything was stopped. "And the rain from the heavens, the Shamayim, was withheld." So basically it's telling us that the water stopped. No more water from the Shamayim, no more water from the great deep. So verse number 3, it says, "And the waters receded steadily from the earth, and at the end of the 150 days the water diminished." So important information here. So we have a second date here in order to do our calculation. So it says that in the 17th day, the 17th Yom of the 7th Chodesh, the water diminished. And we also have the information on the verse 24, in the 7:24, that the water were mighty on the earth on the 150 days. So we can do the calculation here. But let's take a look first in the verse number 4, and it said, and in the 7th Chodesh, the 17th of the Chodesh, the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. So we see here that at the end of the 150 days, the water diminished. And what happened? On that day, when the water diminished, the ark was able to rest on the mountain of Ararat. If we read the verse 5 and so on, we will see that there were still water on the earth, and they started to decrease steadily until the 10th Chodesh, and so on and so on. But the important here is that the water were mighty for 150 days. So after that, on the 17th day, the peak of the mountains of Ararat were seen, and that's why the ark was able to rest on that place. So this is the end of the 150 days. Read it again, please. By yourself, you will understand better, most probably. But you will see that the end of the 150 days is on the 17th day of the 7th Chodesh. So if we do a basic calculation, actually we can see that everything passed in 5 Chodeshim, 5 months, starting on the 2nd. If we count the 3rd, 4th, 5, 6, and 7, we have 5 months. Okay? And we will see in a table more details about this in a moment. So 5 months passed from the beginning of the flood until the ark rested, from the 2nd to the 7th Chodesh. So if we divide this 150 days in the 5 Chodeshim, we end up with this number, 30 days per Chodesh. So how come we are gonna fit the 29 days in a moon-based calendar on this account? Impossible. Impossible. So if this is not clear, let's check the table. So basically, this table is doing all the analysis of the same account using a moon-based calendar where we have months of 29 days and 30 days. So the first column is the Chodesh, is the month. The second column is basically the reference when the event started or ended. And the third column is the amount of days that they were in the ark when the event started. So we know from the first point over here is that the flood started on the second month, on the 17th of the month. So let's assume in this moon-based calendar that this month lasts 30 days. So from the 17th to the 30th day, we have 13 days, okay? Let's assume that the third month, the third Chodesh, had 30 days as well. But we need to add in the fourth month 29 days, because, you know, at least we will have 2 months during a 5 months period of time. We will have at least 2 months with 29 days in a moon-based calendar. So let's assume that the fourth month was 29 days. Then the fifth day, let's assume, was 30 days. The sixth month, was 29 days. And on the seventh month, we said that everything stopped and they are rested on the 17th of the month. So we need to count all these 17 days. If we sum up all of these numbers, this amount of days, we will end up with 148 days. But the scripture is telling us that the entire account for this was 150 days. So it doesn't match. So it's impossible to use a moon-based calendar in order to recognize this account. So let's do the same exercise with a month with 30 days only. Okay, the same concept here. So instead of using some months with 29 days, we will use the 30 days. The reasoning here is the same thing. From the 17th of the second month until the 30th day of the second month, we have 13 days, so we need to count 13 here. For the rest, we count 30 days for each one of the months. And on the 7th month, we count the 17th month. If you sum up all of this number, we will end up in 150 days. And it matches completely, and it's perfect, and it's aligned, it's in harmony on the account of Noah flood. You know, I received an email from a person, and he sent me very valuable information in order to make this slide clear. I change it a little bit. If you receive a copy of this slide, you will see that I changed it a little bit. And he mentioned, one of the points he mentioned, and he was quite clear on that. If we, so far in what we have seen, that the true calendar of YaHuWaH is considering 12 months and also is considering 13 days per month. If we do the math, the 12 month multiplied for the 12 month, we will end up in 360 days. And the question he had, how come? So is the scripture is telling us that we're having only 360 days a year? And the answer is somehow yes, and it's yes and no actually, because we need to consider the account of Hanoch, the revelation of Hanoch. We need to understand that in the revelation of Hanoch we have 4 special days. Those are the days that is called the head of 1,000 of the stars, are the 4th intercalary days. And on the account of Hanoch, the revelation of Hanoch is telling us that those days are not to be counted in the reckoning of the month. So we don't need to consider those days on the month. That's why we will have always a month of 30 days. And that's why we will end up in a year of 360 days if we base our calculation only on the month. But Hanoch is saying us that we need to consider those 4 days in the reckoning of the year. So if we count all the days of the year, we will end up with 364 days. So that's why we have 2 different views. If we consider just the month, counting the days of the month, we will see 360 days in a year. But to that, we need to add the 4 days for the reckoning of the year, and we will end up with the 364 days. This is an important point, and it's a key point to understand prophecy as well. And we will see it in the next witness. So let's move on. So 2 more witnesses for and exactly 30 days per month. So next one is in Jason, Revelation chapter 11, verse 2 and 3. Revelation chapter 11, verse 2 and 3. So it says the following: But cast out the cart which is outside the dwelling place, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the nations, and they shall trample the Kodesh city, the set apart city, underfoot for 42 months. So the whole context here is in the end times, as basically the nations trample the Kodesh city. We know that the Kodesh city is Jerusalem. And actually, take a look in the account of Luke, when we have the prophecy of Mashiach about the end times, the same one that we see in YaHuWaH, Matthew 24. And there is a specific information about this event. The nations trample the set apart city. So take a look on that. I don't remember the chapter, but check in Luke, and you will understand what I'm saying now. So all of this is going to last 42 months. But let's take a look in the verse 3, because we have a different way to see a different measure of time for this same period. It says the following: And I shall give unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clad in sackcloth. So basically we have 2 events happening parallel. And I have this information in a study I did last year. Is the last days timeline that I pretend to make a video of that very soon, and we will see it on that study. But just for the moment, be with me. We have 2 parallel events going on. The set apart city being trampled down by foot for the nations for 42 months, and for the same period of time, we have the 2 witnesses giving prophecies for a period of 1,260 days. So basically, this is giving us the second key, because we can do a calculation. If we are talking about the same period of time, and we divide the 1,260 days divided for the 32 months, we see that we are talking about 30 days per month. So it's quite clear. And again, as I said before in the slide before, this is the way to understand prophecy. Prophecy is always given on the days of the month. It's given us on an account of 360 days. But also keep in mind that during these 42 months, we are talking about 3.5 years. We have also the intercalary days. So we need to consider those intercalary days to understand when in the timeline everything's going to happen. Okay? But again, coming back to the main point of this video, this witness, this second witness, is quite clear, and it's giving us again the information of a month having 30 days, no option, no place for a moon-based calendar with 29 days. The third witness, or the second witness in this slide, is in the same book, Jason, Revelation, chapter 12, verse 6, 13, and 14. And this is basically talking about the great sign on the Shamaim. Is the woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and a crown with 12 stars on her head. So if we read the verse 6, and by the way, I'm going to cover this chapter as well in the last day timeline. And this is important, and I think it's my belief that the sign that we will see in September 23 somehow is aligned to what is written here. So we need to prepare ourselves. I think this year we will see important things happen in the world. We are already seeing it. So we need to prepare ourselves more than physically, spiritually, and emotionally, because we will be put under test, and we need to know what's the truth in order to make a decision and be on the side of YaHuWaH. So let's take a look on the verse 6. It says the following: And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim, to be nourished there 1,260 days. So this is the first clue. So a woman going to the wilderness, to a place of safety, and she's going to be nourished there for this period of time, 1,260 days. Important thing, that is the same period of time that we saw here, the two witnesses and all the problems in Jerusalem. So let's read the number 13, the verse 13. It says, And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness. So wait a minute. So we're talking about the same situation here than the verse 6. So to fly into the wilderness. To her place. What place? The place of safety. Where she's nourished. Again, in that place she's going to be nourished. And for what period of time? In the verse 14 it says, for a time, and times, and half a time. So again we have a correlation. Time and times and half a time. It's equal to 1,260 days based on these passages, these verses. So one important point, and actually if we do the calculation with the 42 months that we have over here, because we are talking about the same period of time, 1,260 days, that time and times and half a time is understood as a 3.5 year, 3.5 years. So this is based on a fixed year of 12 months, as we already saw that the scripture is revealing us. So considering that the equivalence of this is 42 months, so it's the same period of time that we saw in Jason 11. Okay? Again, if we do the calculation based on all of this information, the 1,260 days divided for the 3.5 years of the 42 months, we end up again with the 30 days per Chodesh. Again, third witness, second witness in this slide of the scripture telling us that we have only 30 days in the month. No place at all for the 20 days on the entire prophecy, no place at all for 20 days moon-based calendar on the scriptures. Okay, this is an important point, and actually this is based on the fact that the Sanhedrin had the authority during the second temple period to announce and declare the beginning of the month and the beginning of the year. So as is written over there in red, you will find nowhere in the scripture of a mention of a Sanhedrin having the authority to be the guardian of the calendar and to be the responsible to announce the beginning of the months and the beginning of the years. Actually, the only place that you can see a kind of committee is when Moshe decided to put judges for Israel following Jethro advice, and he selected 70 elders. But we have no other place that we are commanded to have a Sanhedrin, and even no place with a commandment for this Sanhedrin to have the authority to announce the beginning of the year. But the scripture is revealing us something. It's quite clear and telling us who have this responsibility. So again, let's check and let's search for the truth in the scripture. And where we can find this. This is in Bemidbar, Sefer HaBemidbar, is the book of Numbers, chapter 10, verse 8 and verse 10. Bemidbar, Numbers 10, 8 and 10. And it says the following, and by the way, I will recommend you to read the entire chapter, especially the first verse, because the whole context is quite amazing and how it's connected to the end times and the 7 trumpets in Jason, in Revelation. So let's read in the verse 8, in the verse 8, yes. So it says the following, and the sons of Aharon, the priests, the Kohanim, blow with the trumpets, and it shall be to you for a law forever throughout your generations. So the Kohanim, the priests, have the responsibility to blow the trumpets, and this responsibility is a law forever. And forever, we know, is forever. It's not going to end. It doesn't have an end. So they have responsibility, eternal responsibility to blow the trumpets as part of Israel. And when they need to blow the trumpets, let's go to verse 10. It says, and in the day of your gladness, and in your appointed times, the Moedim, and at the beginning of your Chodesh, this is Rosh Chodeshim, you should blow trumpets over your ascending offerings and over your slaughtering of peace offerings, and they shall be a remembrance for you before your Elohim. I am YaHuWaH, your Elohim. So basically, they have to blow the trumpets in different moments, in the Moedims, in the day of gladness, in days of feast, and also at the beginning of the Chodeshim. And this is an important point to understand. You know, in the moon-based calendar, they call Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, when they see the crescent moon. The scripture in no place is telling us that we need to call this in this way, because every month is called Chodesh, and Chodesh means month or renewal. The only place that we have the Rosh Chodesh, actually it's not Rosh Chodesh, it's Rosh Chodeshim, is in this place and also in Shemot. So what does it mean? Rosh Chodeshim is the head of the months. So it's basically the first month of the year, is the first day of the year. That's Rosh Chodeshim. So the priest had the responsibility to blow the trumpet in the Rosh Chodeshim, in the first day of the year. They have the responsibility to announce the beginning of the year. Not the Sanhedrin, not any people, not any other person that were checking the moon or checking the barley. The Kohanim were the responsible to blow the trumpet, announcing the Rosh Chodeshim, the beginning of the year, the head of the month, the first day of the year. But we have a second witness, and this is very important as well. Bemidbar, the same book, Numbers, chapter 28, verse 11 and 15. Numbers 28, verse 11 and 15. And it says the following in the verse 11. And again, you can read the full context. It's talking about the different offerings that the Kohanim are responsible to make. And in the 11 had a specific offering. And it says, and on the beginnings of your Chodeshim, again we are talking about Rosh Chodeshim, the head of the months, the first month of the year, the first day of the year. It says, You bring near an ascending offering to YaHuWaH, 2 young bulls and 1 ram and 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones. And if you continue reading, you will see all the different aspects of the offering that they need to make to YaHuWaH Elohim. So if we check the chapter 15, verse 15, verse 14, not 15. It says the following in the 14. And their drink offering is half a hin of wine for a bull, and 1/3 of a hin for a ram, and 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. And listen to this. This is the ascending offering for each Chodesh throughout the Chodeshim of the year. So they were responsible to perform a specific ascending offering in Rosh Chodeshim, the heads of the month, the first day of the year. In the same way that they were blowing the trumpet in order to announce the beginning of the month, the Rosh Chodeshim, in the same day they have the responsibility, the Kohenim had the responsibility to make an ascending offering to YaHuWaH. So that was a second way to announce the beginning of the year, the beginning of the first month. But they also, in the verse 14, is saying to us, they also had the same responsibility to offer the same ascending offering. It says, every Chodesh throughout the Chodeshim of the year, every month throughout the months of the year. So basically, the Kohenim had the responsibility to know when the month were starting. They were having the count. They were the guardian of the Torah, because they needed to know when to blow the trumpet to start the year, the Rosh Chodeshim, and they need to know when to start the month in order to provide the ascending offering to YaHuWaH. So it's the Kohenim, was only the Kohenim had the responsibility to be the guardian of YaHuWaH's calendar, not the Sanhedrin, not other people, only the Kohenim. And why is this so important? If we remember in Ezekiel prophecy, this is in the chapter 44, I think, it says that the Kohenim, the sons of Zadok, the Bnei Zadok, those are the ones to serve YaHuWaH in all these things. And this is so important because no other Kohenim, more than the sons of Zadok, are going to have the responsibility in the Malchut HaShamayim, when everything is going to be restored, to serve in the Hal of YaHuWaH. In all of these things, we have the prophecy and the account of Ezekiel telling us all of this. And why it's so important? Because we are told in Revelations that we have been chosen as kings and priests, Melechim and Kohenim. With YaHuWaH, with Yahushua, under Yahushua leadership, we are also Kohenim. So we will have this responsibility as well. You know, there is a place in Hason, I think it's in the chapter 20, verse 6, that it says that everyone that is participating in the first resurrection are blessed because they are going to be Kohenim for Elohim. So another aspect that is very important is that how we are connected, being Kohenims, we are connected with the sons of Zadok. And here we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, if you read it, every place you will have reference of the sons of Zadok. And this is very important because if we study the genealogy of Yahushua, we will see an important connection between the son of Zadok, Yahushua, and us. And I'm pretending to, I have a study of the genealogy of Yahushua. I'm pretending to make a video of this very soon, if you just permit me to do it. So again, all of this is very important, and keep it in mind and meditate on these things. So to finish for today, some additional points to consider, and these one are very important. The first one, checking the scripture. Nowhere you will find the scripture that we are commanded to watch the appearance of the new moon to determine the beginning of the month. There are not any story on the scriptures you will find in any place, in no place in the scripture, people checking the moon and giving the witness to a Sanhedrin in order to determine the beginning of the month. No place at all. The second point, Nowhere in the scriptures we are commanded to observe the status of the barley to determine the beginning of the year. You know, I told you that sometimes people are saying that the barley is not in the proper status, so they are delaying the entire calendar, or they are advancing the calendar in 1 month. How come? We cannot depend on the status of the barley. We cannot depend on man opinion. You know, and the scripture is quite clear. Instead of checking the barley, YaHuWaH created a clock in the sky, in the Shamayim, in the heaven. And he is telling us that this clock is working with the luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars. And the purpose of this clock, of these luminaries, is to determine the days and the years. And this is written in Bereshit, Genesis 1:14. Take a look on that and you will see it. So in no place, when YaHuWaH decided to create this clock for us to understand when the day, what are the days and what are the years, he mentioned the barley. So we don't need to use the barley in order to understand when the day and when the year begins. Third point, and this is very critical, YaHuWaH's moedim cannot depend or be impacted for weather conditions. How can we can decide that the moedim is moving and delaying in 1, 2, 3 days? It's not possible. YaHuWaH has fixed days for his moedim. So if we follow the true calendar of YaHuWaH, we are not going to get impacted for weather conditions, because we have the three witnesses, the sun, moon, and the stars, to understand when the year begins. And no matter that maybe we have poor weather conditions and we are not able to see the moon, believe me, we don't need to do that, because YaHuWaH will not depend on the weather. He will not make us depend on the weather in order to know his moedim. And the fourth point, and this is very important and somehow is connecting all the previous 3 points, that we know that Israel was in the wilderness for 40 years after they came out from Israel, from Egypt. And we know, but reading the Torah, that they were keeping the moedim, because during this period, and this is also an important point, during this 40 years period, what Israel were doing? They were learning Torah. They were learning the way, because they were preparing themselves in order to put in practice Torah when they were entering into the rest, into the land, into the promised land. And it's the same thing that we are doing now, that we are in the wilderness of the people. We are learning the way, we are learning Torah, because when the time comes and we are going to participate in the second Exodus, and we are going to enter into the rest, into the land, into the promised land, we are going to be able to put in practice all we have been learning so far. So that's why it's important to make progress, to learn Torah, to learn the way, because when the time comes, we will have the opportunity to put all of this in practice in the land of Israel. So during this period in the wilderness, this 40 years period in the wilderness, they were keeping the moedim. But they were not in Jerusalem. They were not able to see the new moon in Jerusalem. They were not able to see the barley in the land of Israel to determine the calendar. So how they were doing it? They were doing it using the clock created by YaHuWaH Elohim, the clock in the Shamayim, the sun, moon, and stars. That's the only way they were able to do it. Because if they were using it with the Hillel calendar was created thousands of years later. They were not in the land of Israel for hundreds of years. So YaHuWaH was telling them and teaching them how to use the calendar when he was saying, this is the first Chodesh for you. It's the Rosh Chodeshim of the year for you in Shemot chapter 12. So this is a tremendous witness and a tremendous point to understand that the moon-based calendar has no place in the scriptures. The only true calendar of YaHuWaH is based on the sun, the moon, and the stars, based on the revelation of Hanoch, based on the information and the revelation we have in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and based on the revelation we have in the Torah and the whole scriptures. So this is for today. This is the part number 2, the stars. We will not review today. I had the opportunity to receive light about the stars. It's some topic that I was studying, and I will share with you very soon, because we have an amazing witness in the study in order to understand as well when the year begins. So here I am again. I hope this video and this insight was somehow clear for you. You know, again, the intention is not to create any debate, any confusion. The whole intention is to search for the truth and let the Ruach HaKodesh guide us on the truth, because Mashiach said the truth will set us free. And it's our responsibility to search for the truth in order to have clean clothes, clean linen, and to present ourselves clean before YaHuWaH, before YaHuWaH, because the time is coming. The time is getting shorter and shorter, and it's my belief, and I feel it here in my heart, that YaHuWaH is making everything in an accelerated way, and actually it's like what Daniel said, that the knowledge will increase, and this is what we see in the Word, and also what we see in our journey. We are going faster and faster, because YaHuWaH wants us to understand His truth in order to be prepared for what is coming. So I hope this video was clear. If it's not, please send me an email. You have my email address over here. If there's some point that is not clear, or you want to go deeper in some of them, send me an email. I will be more than happy to help you with my opinion, with my insight. You know, we are the body of Mashiach. We need to help each other. That's the only way to make progress, to support each other. It's written, I think it's in Kohelet, that the string of 3 wires, or the cord of 3 strings, is much stronger. We need to walk each other. You know, I cannot walk for you in the way. We need to work for ourselves. But what we can do is to support each other, to share our experiences, share what we have received from YaHuWaH, because that will serve for your edification, for my edification. So again, if you have any question and you want to go deeper in something, send me an email and we will keep in touch. Again, thank you for joining me on this video, and hope you enjoyed. Shabbat Shalom, enjoy the day, and see you soon.